Into the Room was a incredibly tense piece between these two brothers fighting. I think you did a great job establishing their tone with each other, that which established the rest of the piece. I think um, it was incredibly tense. It was a great, their relationship was there. You could feel the anger and the distrust and like just the overall anxiety about these two brothers as they're fighting and watching that, and how the audience reacts is almost like a fly on the wall to this really, really intense situation, which builds and, really reaches its climax. I think he did a great job with that. I want to commend the actors for um, really going into it. And overall, it was a really cohesive, well done piece.
Enter the Room. I thought this was really, really clever. They had a lot of things going on here that I thought they did really well with the kind of stress and anxiety that you could feel like just radiating off of the main guy about money and about kind of this seeming turn that his life has taken. And then they did a good job of kind of like throwing a brotherly relation into it, and you kind of get that brotherly feel where I think everybody for the most part feels like you can always turn to your siblings, but sometimes there are strings attached. Like you have to put up with your sibling that's known you for forever, and that always kind of gets complicated, I think. But you can still always turn to them, and I think that initial premise of being able to, turn to his brother, but at the same time their like constant bickering and everything else is a little bit to be expected, and he just like apologizes and tries to move on or like let it go. And then by the time you get to the very, very end and you kind of just see him spiraling a little bit more and more and more, and he gets a little bit more like keyed up and a little bit more intense as it goes on, especially when he's like trying to deal with his brother. And then when you get to the very, very end and you kind of had this like huge blowout and this moment of realization of like the conversation between him and his brother, where you realize that's like nothing what you think has been going on has actually been going on. I thought it was so well done. I really, really enjoyed that because you kind of like rode this anxious, stressed out ride with him, and then to find out at the very end like none of it is real, was a really great twist.
I wasn't expecting this to turn out with the twist it had, because man, was it a twist. I figured this was just brothers fighting. You could feel the anxiety on the screen to the point where it felt like I was going to get an ulcer just listening to them. I didn't expect this to have a lot darker, deeper meanings. I knew the older brother had a little mental illness. I figured it was a little bit of OCD, not PTSD, so that was a good little twist in the story. Um, this film could have used a little bit of color correction, but other than that, the story was spot on. The acting was great. The lighting was there. The sound mixing was great as well. You could feel the tension coming off of it to the point where, like I said, I felt like I was going to get an ulcer just listening to the two of them fight, because it was elevating my anxiety, which makes it a great story to tell.
So this is a really interesting idea for a film. It's a good psychological horror drama, using something realistic like a family tragedy to trigger a situation. It's interesting that, instead of having the usual trope of the dead brother and we can see him, he's not really there. It's actually a part of his imagination, and his brother's in jail somewhere. It's a little bit of a different a twist on that sort of that whole thing. And it's interesting because you do kind of assume that if it's going to be one of them that is, the imaginary one, you think it's going to be the uptight guy, but that reverses on you too. So excellent work there. Yeah, it was a good script. The actors did a good job. It was nicely directed, good tight storytelling. So good luck with this. I hope it does well for you.
This review is for Enter the Room. This was very engaging and relatable. The haunting of confusion experienced after a traumatic experience. They do a great job showcasing this, I believe, and I enjoyed the argument they have and coming to terms with reality on a whirlpool of colors and superposed imagery. This led me thinking about the title though, because I don't know. I had convoluted thoughts about this. Is the room real? Is the brother real? Is this person just having a bad dream? This was just very cryptic, very terrifying as well. I had a great time.
I freaking love the twist at the end of Enter the Room. Uh, it's one of my favorite. I love how they use the sense of the unreliable narrator to cause just this cyclone of insanity. Um, you first watch it and you think that the first brother is very uptight, neurotic. He's a control freak, and you relate with the other brother as this rage slowly boils up until the inevitable confrontation where the two of them butt heads. But you start seeing these little signs. The neurotic brother, he yells at his mom for interrupting him while he's at work. But while that's happening, we see a text that says that he might be able to find a job interview, or he might be able to get a job interview. Then we see another post where someone is giving their condolences about his parents. And then, at first, you think, oh, like, he breaks down and he says, he lost his job, and the brother's like, you need to handle this. And so you think, oh, okay, the parents passed on and the two brothers are grieving. Then you find out that the other brother was never even there. I love that. I loved that so much because all the seeds were there. And then when that reveal happens, you go, oh, okay, he went over the edge. I love that twist so much because it felt earned, and very much enjoyed this one.
Enter the Room manages to perfectly capture this heightened sense of anxiety. The combination of performance and music heightens that sense of anxiety to like almost unwatchable levels. But it also tempers it with some great comedy early on. The way it uses like the difficulties of sharing a personal space with someone and that kind of intrusion produces some great moments of comedy, some great laughs. But then when the twist comes initially, like it manages to be unexpected, also quite funny, but also really sad at once, which is genuinely impressive to get all those things in there together. But then once it dives into the nature of that twist, it descends into like really heartbreaking territory, and it does move you and it stays with you, and it's quite haunting in a unexpected way.